in my opinion, the most damaging thing you can do is to go out of stock when you're in on-premise versus the off-premise. As much as you disappoint your customers and make your retailers sad, the worst thing you could do is be on a menu and not be able to fill that cocktail.
Hey guys, it's Joey Chanel from Sippin and Selling, and today's guest is Michelle Ivey from 11C & Company. Hi, Michelle. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Joey.
I'm so excited you're here. It's actually our first time meeting in person.
I know, and I forgot about that because I feel like I've known you forever.
I do too. I love that about meeting other women in this industry. It's just a familiarity that just feels like we're bonded because there's not many of us, and I know that we have a similar background because we represent several brands, and I also feel like that's very unique and rare in this business, and that's what we're going to get into today. So thanks for coming. Michelle, as I said, and I work together. We currently work together with Chicas Divertitas. Yes. That's Megan Thee Stallion's tequila brand, for those of you that don't know, with the gorgeous bottle that you'll see behind Michelle.
Right behind my head.
And that's not where you started in the industry. You've been around a long time, so I would love to hear your backstory. Talk to the audience about what made you get into the industry, if you started there or not, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, I definitely started there. I mean, I started as a dive bartender, working my way through college in Philly, 18 years old. Bartending, came up through the bar industry, hospitality industry, into management, hospitality operations, running a bunch of different hospitality operations for different people, and worked my way into being part of the founding group of a team that founded Ilegal Mezcal.
Wonderful.
At a time in my life when I didn't think I'd be part of a team founding a liquor brand. I was turning 40, contemplating kind of retiring for a bit and moving out of the country to a town called Antigua, Guatemala. Met a guy named John Rexer who already had founded the brand Ilegal. Became obsessed with the bar Cafe No Say because bars are my hobby besides my business.
Right.
And it all went from there. 12 years of growing that brand, and we sold it to Bacardi in 2023, and now I'm working on a bunch of things.
That's amazing. It's so interesting to hear that, just from, it sounds like it was kismet with the group you met, but also I just turned 40, so I understand wanting to try different things. That's why I'm doing the podcast. I understand looking for, something fresh and new, and it still was true to your background, which is great. I personally wasn't a mezcal person. I didn't ever know about it until about maybe 7 years ago. A brand came across my desk that was female-owned, which I always love to work with female-owned brands. And it was two artists that they just went to Mexico, and they had tried mezcal also for the first time, and they had never really heard of it before, and they fell in love with it and made a beautiful bottle, and the rest was history for them. Did you know about what mezcal was prior to going there? Have you dabbled in drinking it before?
Only if you count Monte Alban from the early 90s. So I would say the answer is no, because I would not count that. I had traveled to Antigua, Guatemala, and found this crazy bar called Cafe No Say that is open 7 days a week, 365 days a year, music hub, international place, and everybody in there was drinking Ilegal Mezcal.
Okay.
I'm a whiskey drinker at heart, and Ilegal, unlike most brands at the time, was creating a line that included Reposado and Añejo that they were exporting to the U.S. They had just started exporting, but Cafe No Say was the hub that they used to define their drinker and do all of their incubation. And I fell in love with Reposado. Coming from whiskey, it made a lot of sense. And became a little obsessed. And
I am too. That's my favorite tequila to drink. And Chicas has a Reposado that's fantastic for those of you that haven't tried it before.
I'm also, Chicas Reposado is what I drink, and Chicas Divertitas just launched. Crazy enough, maybe 2 months ago, and I just joined the team a month ago. Actually, I guess it launched going on 3 months ago now, and I joined the team almost 2 months ago now.
Yes.
So I'm very excited about that too.
So great. It's been fun working this brand. We can't keep it in stock, which is great for, majority of the people invested. But of course, it creates some issues for us on the chain side. We have so many stores that are looking for it and they want us to do tastings. And it's always so exciting to have that problem rather than not be able to sell the product. So that's a first for me. And that's some like growing pains for me, which I like to talk about different things in the industry that new brands experience, because the whole idea is to educate people who are not in the industry listening in, to get them, a little informed, maybe just because it's something interesting to talk about. Also, it's for the people in the industry that are out there thinking about starting their own line, because I know there's people that'll come to me, I'm sure to you too. That's how we met. We had, a girl that we both love named Taylor Foxman out of New York that introed us, and she is very big with incubator brands and curating those relationships. And I think that's something that is important to talk about, that, you can plan to have the best production. You can plan to have pallets and pallets of orders, but sometimes you don't know that you're not going to be able to keep it in stock. And then you don't want to anger partners. You don't want to anger the liquor stores, etc. You don't want to lose the momentum. And there's things that you can plan and there's things that you don't expect to happen. My dad has a line he likes to say that, you don't plan to fail, you fail to plan. And I'm sure that everybody behind this brand did the best that they can, but sometimes things like this happen. So what are we doing behind the scenes to not necessarily let a lot of partners know that and still keep up with all the momentum? There's other things we can do that are important that I think we should share with those of you listening out there that are starting a brand or maybe are in the same predicament. What are some tips you think that you've been bringing to the team to help with that sort of, little bit of a hiccup?
I do think that's where I definitely have a background and expertise that's working for this particular brand. The brand launched by Megan is amazing. It's beautiful. The liquid is great. It's produced by a tequila house called Centinela, which is a very old tequila house. It has the most amazing aging cave, the largest aging cave in tequila in Mexico. So the availability of the liquid isn't the issue, but you do have to plan for production, and production does take time no matter what you do. And so they set a plan in place and they produced the liquid, and Megan has such an amazing fan base, and the demand for her product was way beyond their expectations. So they brought a particular amount of product to the United States in February, put it in a soft launch with Reserve Bar, and then also in March went into a dedicated launch nationally with Total Wine, which is where you came in and set up sampling, helped with that. It was amazing. And everything went out the door immediately. And so what we've done, obviously, is put a new production plan in place. We have scrapped the previous plan, put an entire new forecast in, which I came in and rewrote. We have an entire new shipment plan coming starting in August, because it does take about 3 months to put that into place. And we have gone narrow and deep in our focus, which is very, very important when you're establishing a brand and looking at a plan. So we are not expanding. We are staying only with our current existing retail. We are only filling in the existing 5 major states that we're in. And we are not going to expand into on-premise. We are not going to go on menu despite the demand and the ask. And that's a hard thing to do, is to say no. We're saying no. And that's because, in my opinion, the most damaging thing you can do is to go out of stock when you're in on-premise versus the off-premise. As much as you disappoint your customers and make your retailers sad, the worst thing you could do is be on a menu and not be able to fill that cocktail. 1,000%. So we are staying in the retail for the summer, and we will be doing a full extensive launch in all 5 states at the end of the summer to roll into SOND and be on menu and be in the clubs and have a great time this fall and into the holiday season.
Amazing. The plan is activated.
Yes.
The states that we are in are California, Texas. Obviously, we're here in Florida. And we have two more. It's New York.
New York and Illinois. And we actually will still be filling our plan to do a launch in Georgia, which is coming towards the end of June. And that is not out of the plan. That was always in the plan because the hotties, who are Megan's fans, are very, very, very thirsty in Atlanta, and we will not disappoint them. That is still coming to be in Atlanta in June,
love it.
at the end of June.
I love it. Amazing. So yeah, that's a little bit about how Michelle and I got to know each other and the amazing brand that we're working on together and building, and we're going to see it through. And it's really, for me, it's something that is new in my territory. Like I said, I haven't experienced anything like this. It's really fun, and I'm really excited to see where this brand goes. And you're doing everything right by keeping the plan narrow. The worst thing brands do is just try to spider web into 20 plus states, and it's very hard to get it together and do it right and continue that consistent customer base, and like you said, make sure you fulfill all menu mandates. So I think it's a great plan, and I see why that you're leading the charge for this company. But that's enough about Chicas. We want to talk about 11 C Co. and Co. I always mess this up because I always love to flub my intros. That's my nervous tick on the podcast. But anywho, I would love to hear about your other projects you're doing, because you have an extensive array of different products that you're tapping into, which is really interesting to me. You had mentioned to me about a product that's not spirit-based.
Yes.
Can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. First, I'll quickly say everyone flubs the name of our company.
Thank you.
And by our, I say that 11C and Co., which is 11C and Co. 11C, 11C is the address for Cafe No Say in Antigua, Guatemala. If anyone's ever looking for it, it's on First Avenida. It is a fun place. Go there. It is where the team who built Ilegal Mezcal met.
Nice.
And that is why it is near and dear to all of us. Some of us have tattoos of it. I do not have that tattoo yet. I do have an Ilegal tattoo, but I do not have 11C tattoo.
That's pretty cool.
And is where we met. It's also known as the Bad Idea Factory. We've had many, many bad ideas and some good ideas. And one of the good ideas that came out of 11C is called Como No, which is why not in Spanish. And Como No is a caffeinated sparkling water. It's a functional beverage, a clean energy drink, caffeinated sparkling water. It's all of those things. It's an intersection of a new style of drink that everybody's seeing in the market now. Functional beverages have been growing. They're super popular. It can fill the niche of a non-alcoholic slot on a menu. It can fill the niche of a caffeinated drink for someone in the morning that doesn't drink coffee, or someone who's had enough coffee for the day that wants something in the afternoon. It is 100 milligrams of caffeine in sparkling water, plus it also contains L-theanine for focus.
Oh, wow.
So it comes in 3 flavors, prickly pear and lime, pineapple tamarind, and mango chili at the moment. We'll be expanding those profiles. It launched in New York last month. You can find it in many bodegas now, and it is also going to be found in on-premise behind the bar, which is the reason we launched in New York City. A lot of people would not launch a new brand in New York City because of the expense and
toughest market out there.
The toughest market out there. However, it is where we built Ilegal, and because 11C is the team that came out of Ilegal Mezcal, it is our home base. It is where all our connections are. We do know the buyers, we know the scene, it's where all our friends are, and it's where we all live. And so we will be building our Como No brand there as well, and we will be coming from behind the bar. And so we're very excited to tackle that piece because we feel that scene has not been conquered. And if you, not to give away too much, but I haven't seen anyone really make that clean beverage offering. And if you're there, the only energy choice you have is Red Bull. And who's really drinking that these days? I mean, nobody wants the chemicals.
No. You know, there's a lot of different options out there in the market. I've talked about this a little bit before, that there's a lot of lanes that are looking for hero brands. I say it with the non-alc cans. I haven't heard of anything with caffeine yet that has been in that space also. I've heard of like the kava drinks and that sort of thing, but this sounds different. Can you explain the difference between a kava based drink and the caffeine based? Because how I understand it in layman's terms, and I'm sure I'm butchering it because I always like to just talk out of my mouth and I don't really always have the perfect facts. But for me, kava is the outside of the coffee bean is where it comes from, and that gives people energy. That's not the same ingredient that we're using in your product.
That's correct. And we are actually not a coffee-based
Okay.
caffeine. We're from green tea, which is the
Okay. See,
preference
I'm
for
glad I
a lot
asked.
of people. We are not a coffee-based caffeine.
Okay,
We're
perfect.
100 milligrams of green tea leaf caffeine. And
Okay,
so
perfect.
that is the preference for a lot of people. It's not coffee-based.
Okay, good.
And you don't have any coffee flavor, and it's 0 calories and 0 sugars.
Okay, perfect. See, I'm glad I asked. And I'm sure someone out there, if I'm wrong about where the kava comes from, it might be green tea leaf too. I mean, I confuse a lot of things. I've seen a lot of products that come over to me, but either way, like I said, there isn't something that is a hero brand. There's not something that I reach for that'll give me energy. I know people like that Celsius and all of that, but we go back to those chemicals, and that is not what I want to ingest.
And I'll be honest, I have never liked the flavor of anything that has kava in it, so I am not familiar with it because I don't drink it. Our beverages taste like flavored water, so
Nice.
I drink those because they just taste like clean water.
Right. Beautiful.
I wish I had one with me,
Yeah,
but
I know. Next time I wanna
we're in
try it.
Florida
Yeah,
and we
it's
don't
good.
have any here, and I flew, so I did not bring any. I
Don't
should have.
worry.
Yeah.
You'll come back on and you'll
I will
bring
send
me
you
some
some.
samples when you're ready for retail.
Yeah, I will.
Outside of the bodegas.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a cool product that's coming out, but you had mentioned something else. Do we not want to talk about
Yeah,
the other one? Okay,
no, we
cool.
can talk about it.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
another one. My partners at 11C and I partnered with a family that owns an avocado farm in Michoacan. They have a beverage called Avo 2, that is an avocado water. And so many of you have seen some of the fruit waters that are pressed that are on market now. Watermelon water is kind of one of the, that's hard to say, watermelon water.
Yes. Say it 3 times fast, Michelle.
Is kind of big on the market these days. It's in a can. So we have avocado water. It is very refreshing. It has a tiny bit of citrus to it. It's a fantastic beverage. I believe it's coming in about 90 calories. It has a bit of fat content to it, so it is very satiating. I find it really enjoyable. There is a little bit of viscosity to it, but it's not thick like a smoothie. And it has all the health benefits of an avocado. But think like you can pick it up and drink it. Like we think it's going to do very well in the fitness centers, in just your general market. It is a cold beverage. It does need to go through that kind of a chain.
Okay.
So it's going to be a really interesting challenge for us. That's definitely a market line of beverage I've never worked in before. So I
Yeah.
love new challenges.
I do too. And I love that you said that. That's probably going to be the fresh markets, the Whole Foods,
Exactly.
Sprouts of the world. I've dipped my toes in those markets, but never with like cold press, cold box, anything like that. It's always been RTDs, ready for the shelf, don't necessarily need the fridge. However, I just had a call with a brand. Cool backstory. I was very interested in the person, and he came through Taylor also. He's been in the non-alc space with his family and distribution, and he's coming into that space with it's like a juice, like you're saying, you know, he has kids, and he had said that there was nothing on the market technically in that space where people have a healthier for you non-alc with some sort of benefits, right? Like he referenced the brand Lemon Perfect, which I like that water.
So do I.
They have, a couple different flavors, and it's BOGO at Publix or whatever. And I definitely go for it because packaging sells for me for sure. I buy with my eyes first. And he was just saying, he was teaching me all these different terminologies about how they bottle and what the different packaging is. So that's the first question that came to my mind about the 2 items you talked about. What does the packaging look like? Can we get it online? Talk a little bit more about, the brands, if they're available to ship. I'm assuming the one in New York could.
Yes, Komono is available online. You can order from our website, drinkkomono.com. That is available through e-commerce, readily available, and that can ship anywhere in the U.S. The avocado water is not available yet, and that is going to launch soon in the U.S. And again, cold chain, new for me. I think that would then only be available local.
Right.
So that's going to be a grocery type item.
Are you going to do it in like the thinner plastics?
So I can talk about the packaging a bit for that. So it's in like a double-walled plastic type bottle. Yes, for it has to be no light filtering for the preservation of the product.
Right.
The Como No product is just in a 12-ounce slimline can.
Okay, cool. Yeah, because he was talking to me about that. He was saying, some of them are made I forget the term. He gave me
heat pasteurization and the HPP. Did you talk about HPP?
Yes. And I was like, all new terms for me.
We have
I hadn't heard of them.
We have to do the avocado water with the HPP to preserve the avocado.
Do you want to dumb it down for the audience and explain what that means, or do you want me to?
I think it has to get dumbed down for me still, to be dead honest. It has to do. I don't know. I'm sorry. I don't know.
The container has to be so for Gatorade, right? That's a non-heat PP one because
correct.
It's a thicker plastic, so it can withstand. It can sustain. I think that's withstand whatever the temperature. But the thinner ones like that watermelon water and the lemon perfect, it has to be done at a different temperature because it's a thinner plastic, and I think those are the recyclable ones where
they are more sustainable. I have a great intro for you.
Okay, great. I'm excited.
I have we're all about supporting women in the industry.
Always.
I have a phenomenal woman to introduce you to.
Cool.
Named Liz Barnett that can explain all of this for us very well.
All right,
that I cannot explain very well. And she is also releasing a protein coffee coming up that is a really cool product. So I'm going to introduce you to her.
Thank you. Yes, I would love that.
And she comes from the industry. She comes from the whole, basically, I can't even remember the name of what it's called when they do that kind of packing. But that's her whole background. And she can explain all.
There's a lot, there's the Tetra packs. I like coconut water. There's all over the internet recently that they're having issues with those packaging, which sucks because it's such cool product. And then they're still having problems on the bottom, which we had referenced on my last episode about RTD cans having issues with spoilage and in the liner and all of that. And that's why I'm asking to go down this path a little bit because, again, we're here to try to educate people, and we're also try to give tips. So anything that you hear ahead of time or that you've learned in your concept to shelf, it's nice to talk about. And these are some of the things, like I said, I don't know about because I sell glass. You know what I mean? So to hear about these other packaging, it's things you wouldn't think about. And it's very cool. It's very innovative. It's exciting. And as I always talk about, I'm a sponge and I like to hear and learn new things. And that was my new fact for this week, was talking to that gentleman. And that's very interesting to hear about the avocado. I love avocados. I know that, that's probably because I'm in Florida, but and I have them accessible often and they're not have to only be in season, but they have so many benefits. And I think that's what this generation's looking for, are the alternative beverages. They're still drinking, but it's definitely that zebra striping, right?
Yes.
So
absolutely.
It's nice to have alternatives. The protein coffee sounds cool. I love to put coffee in my protein shakes, so I'm all about it.
I do it too.
Do you?
Yes, absolutely.
That's so
I'll
funny.
even cheat and do it and get the shaken espressos from a Starbucks, which I don't even go to Starbucks really, but especially if I'm traveling and it's just easy, when you're in Miami, now, and I take protein powders with me and I'll do a shaken espresso and just throw the powder in there and go.
Awesome. I want to go backwards because you grazed over something that is super, it's a big deal that your brands, you built it over 12 years and then you sold it to Bacardi. That doesn't happen all the time, right? We've heard some of these buzz brands all over the industry for a long time. Prior to me growing up in the industry, we had heard about Bacardi. My dad has been in the rum business, so I've often known about them, maybe more than the average Joe. But they represent a bunch of other brands. And, I don't think a lot of people ever realized that. I think they've all heard of their Bacardi flavors and
Mhm.
their other nowadays, they're mixing and getting on board with the trends, but I didn't know that Ilegal was sold to Bacardi. That's news to me. And I would love to hear about how that came about because you just grazed over it and it's a big deal.
Thank you. It is a big deal. It's something we're extremely proud of. It is something a lot of entrepreneurs who start a spirits brand, for many of us, it is the end goal is
Right.
to sell to what we call a multinational spirits company, which many people know are Pernod Ricard or Diageo, but it is also Bacardi and many others like Gala Wines is a multinational too. They buy many spirits companies. So Bacardi owns many brands that a lot of people who aren't in our industry don't realize. They own Grey Goose, they own Patron, they own Bombay Sapphire, Bombay Gin. They own these brands. They own Dewar's Scotch. So they also invest in companies. And way back in 2015, they became an investor in our company,
Wow.
and they sat on our board. And so some people think that means they also did a lot for us. Like maybe we didn't do it all on our own. They really were just a financial investor and a board seat member. So we did still grow on our own. We still had to get out there, do it all ourselves because, as anyone who's grown a spirits brand knows, distributors do carry your product and do fill your orders, but you have to go out there in the streets and sell it yourself.
Absolutely.
So we still did all that work, but we had an investment from Bacardi. So they did have an interest in us for several years. And then ultimately, when we grew the brand to a certain size in 2022, after we successfully navigated COVID and all of these other headaches, we were at a particular level where we felt it was a good time to take the company to market and see what interest there was, and Bacardi came to the table and purchased the company.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So great. Yes, I'm one of them. I didn't know that they owned all of those brands. So thank you for sharing and giving me the insight. Sometimes I get lost in my own brands. I like to build all of these, startup companies, and I'll read Shaken here and there, but I'm not always invested or involved in the brands that already seem like they, have a name, and I'm potentially trying to compete with, right? Like I always sell rum. My family's always owned rum. So I know that Bacardi's always going to have their 750 much more cost effective than the brand I'm selling, and I'm trying to say is an elevated, not direct competitor. So like I don't always try to pay attention to the well-known category pioneers and leaders, because at the end of the day, it can become overwhelming for new brands. It can become, you know, they can get a little bit nervous about trying to stand aside with them. They don't have to take they don't have to take over or try to steal business. But it is nice to hear that someone that started from just a trip, right? And this bar that you liked, and this concept within the 12 years made that ultimate leap, because yes, that is the goal. My own family brands, my dad has been approached by other people that are well-known brands that you had mentioned to buy several of his products. And I heard these stories growing up as a child, and maybe that's kind of why, to me, it's kind of like noise, and I don't listen, because it was often a conversation and he never bit. And I always, looking back as an adult in the industry, starting my own niche in the retail chains, I always was curious as a brand owner, like, why didn't he bite? But then as I grew up in the industry with my own brands, I did also have other brands, rum, funny enough, that had been approached by either a celebrity that wanted to buy it or a big partnership. And at the end of the day, the deal wasn't right for them, because either they didn't want the same team, or they were going to lose, their majority equity, whatever it is. So it's a great thing. And it is the goal, and it is what most brands are looking to do at the end of the day, because in the beginning, in the first 4 years, you definitely don't make any money in this business, right? So it's a big deal that happened. I want to say kudos to you and your team that happened, because I know that is not the norm, especially nowadays. And I know you're saying you made it through COVID, and again, you just glazed over. Very hard times to keep a brand alive during COVID. And again, very hard times to keep a brand that's not like a vodka going, right? And leading the charge as pretty much a new category. Because like you said, you hadn't really tried anything either. And I had never heard of mezcal till a little bit before COVID either. And like I said, I don't pretend to know everything. That's why I do this. That's why I invite the guests I invite on, because I am not a Webster's dictionary of the beverage alcohol space. And I'm very honest about that. And I love hearing things like your story. That's very cool. And I'm very happy that you shared it with the audience. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Of course.
There's many, many things to consider. We could do a multi-segment podcast on what to consider if you are looking at a deal to sell your company, or even just starting from day one, like how do you even establish your company if you're going to consider selling it in the end? I've been on panels about M&A, and there's just so many things to think about. And what would you even consider in a deal, and what will be set up right? I will say I personally stayed on board only for a 6-month transition with Bacardi, and I had other goals that I wanted to accomplish and things I left to go do. Bacardi did keep essentially the entire Ilegal team on board. Most of them, they didn't have room for everything, but they kept the bulk of the team. We ensured that they negotiated a long-term contract with our contract producers in Oaxaca, with the community that built up around the production, because that was important for the economic health and survival of that community in Oaxaca that built up around that factory, and several other things that were very important to us. We did prioritize in the deal, but that things don't always end up that way, and it's not always right.
Right.
And not everything in the deal was right, and not everything was coming up roses, but you're not going to get everything that you want.
Absolutely not. I mean, it's a marriage, right? And a partnership, and at the end of the day, your baby, right? And nobody's going to love your baby like you did when they were first born. So at the end of the day, like you give them away to their partner, and you're like, I hope you love them as much as I did, right? It's not exactly perfect, but
And after it's over, you're not in charge anymore.
exactly. So at the end of the day, it's on to different things, and hopefully you have another amazing success story, and hopefully it's something different, like the channels you're trying to tap into. Are there any other topics or brands that you would like to talk about with me, or talk about so that we can, explain to the audience that they should try or they should look into? It's always something that I want to give my guests the option. If there's any places you want to send them, plugs.
Well, there's another new product that's coming to the U.S. At 11C. We, as you can tell, we love to touch on multiple things. My partners are Kaylin Rexer, Lindsay Rexer. They are sisters. They are the nieces of John Rexer. They were involved in Ilegal, and our other partner, Nick Anderson, also involved in Ilegal. We also work on multiple short-term projects with brands, and recently we finished working on the design portion of a launch of a new Tasmanian whiskey that will be coming to the United States called Rosevears.
Nice.
That is by Justin Turner, who is also the founder of Three Cuts Gin, which is in the United States, a Tasmanian gin. And they just had a big launch in Tasmania, partnered with the Tasmanian Economic Council and all of this press, and it's really beautiful. I'm not sure how long it'll be until it comes to the U.S., but
very cool.
We're very proud of that. The design is really cool. If you want to look it up, I know they did a bunch of announcements on LinkedIn and some other places. And so
love it.
that design came from us, so we like to do creative work too.
Amazing. I love that. Yeah, see, it's nice to check a lot of different boxes, right?
Yeah.
Wear different hats. Well, that's amazing, Michelle. Thank you so much for coming on. I know
you.
it was your first podcast and it can be a
Yeah,
little bit nerve-wracking for
fun.
people, but I enjoyed having you. You were so fun. And so many cool projects coming out, and hopefully everybody goes and checks them out either online or in the bodegas. Send us some pictures, tag Instagram. We're at Sippin and Selling. And Michelle, safe travels back to New York.
you.
I know we're probably going to get together tomorrow at Swim Week.
Yes. Yeah, that'll be fun.
That'll be fun. And then away you go back to the cold. And
Yeah.
you'll miss us here in sunny Florida.
Oh, it was freezing in New York last weekend.
I heard. The weather is terrible. Guys, thanks for joining us here at Sippin and Selling with Michelle Ivey from 11C Co. I didn't mess it up this time. See you next time. Bye.